On Twitter, we were hearing that people actually like it when we jump around on topics. So I'll pass it around. Since I'm looking at you, Rena, I'll ask you what else you wish we would have talked about tonight that maybe we didn't, or what else is on your mind for 2014 St. Louis, and we are on the web, by the way.
I am excited about leadership changes. So I think in 2013 we had an interesting change in leadership with some of our nonprofits, Mike McMillan, the Urban League, Orvin Kimbrough, United Way, and so I'm wondering if that's going to forecast for 2014 and ahead. So I think there's something to be looking for in terms of new, younger, just different changes in our leadership.
Joe, you've been quiet.
Actually, I have to agree with her. Like watching people like Scott and Jason Kander, who both of you guys are, I think you're doing a good job. I think you're doing really well. And if Jason's watching, I think he is too. But I'd love to see them step up and be more vocal and prod the people in power a little bit more and do it publicly so that all the residents of not just the city of St. Louis, but also people all across the state of Missouri can kind of look at their elected officials and say, yeah, we do deserve better. We should be doing better than this. Why aren't we? You're our leaders. You are our leaders. Why aren't we doing better? Because it's partially their responsibility.
It is our government, not just something that we rail on and talk bad about.
Yes.
We are the government. It's not a political statement. I'm just asking if that's what you meant.
Right.
Joe, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I think one thing that we didn't mention, and there was a time, was the initiative petitions.
I had that written down.
2014, because there's really hardly any body running, it's going to be about the issues running.
Unless you're paying attention to the license collector race.
So you're saying, like, for instance, could right to work be for the voters to decide?
Potentially. I think that's less likely than there probably may be something about income taxes. There definitely will be something about teacher tenure, probably, because Rex Singfeld is funding this campaign to put that on the ballot. There may be something about early voting, which actually Koster is involved in.
Transportation tax?
Yeah, there'd be the transportation tax. There's some minor, some major. There's also the ethics proposals, and it's going to depend on who gets the money to actually fund some of this stuff, but it's boiling down to there may be 5 or 6 where they actually get people out there and try to get enough signatures to get them on the ballot. My point being is that if you've got a contest, elections in August and November where really, except for maybe 1 or 2 races, it's going to be issues. It's not going to be, it's going to be 1 or 2 races. That's it.
John, how are you spelling Blaise?
Blaise.
I like that.
Yeah, as in Blaise Pascal.
Very nice.
Not with a Z.
No Z. He might get that as a nickname. You never know. Maybe that's on his jersey.
Can when you think about the future of your child in St. Louis and Missouri,
Yeah.
do you think
Let's talk about this.
Do you think, man, that kid's future will be so much better if we are a right-to-work state and we take away tenure from high school teachers? Or do you think, you know what, my kid's future in this state is probably going to be better off if we do things like fund infrastructure, fund education, and get away from this attitude where, like, big money donors completely dominate the political agenda in Missouri, or we listen to sort of the things that people seem to care most about? Not to lead you to an answer.
Well, I think St. Louis's future is very bright. As long as a certain silo group, for example, in power, that would be political or economic or some other group, doesn't just screw it up royally, meaning that they really want to they want to put people in pain. Like, I don't think anybody's like
Some
that.
sort of ideological...
I don't know, maybe there's a coup. I don't know.
Okay, fine.
Right, something really radical,
Right.
bad, which I don't think is going to happen. I see a bright future for St. Louis. I think everybody wants it to be better for the most part. So whether or not it's going to be funded through big donors or if it's going to be... I grew up in St. Louis. I had a great education, and I moved to other cities, and I felt like I was very competitive with anybody else. I don't know what the answer is to that, to tell you the truth. So I will say this, is that I like competition. I like to see people struggle for something better, and I think that struggle has to be there. So people want to just kind of sit back, fat and happy. That's one of the best states that's doing great right now is Texas. I don't know how they do it with no state income tax. I really don't understand them.
Immigration. It's a big part of it. It's honestly a big part of it. We're trying to figure out, why don't we get as many new citizens as other regions do? Texas has grown in a large part because they get so many new citizens. And why don't we get as many? Could we get more? If we just said we wanted people to move here, would it help move the needle?
And we've got to look at education too. I know we touched on that a little bit earlier, but that's a decision that you're going to have to make in a few years. You know, where are my kids going to go to school? And one of the challenges that we've got as a region is that we've got so much, we've got so much dissension from one municipality to the next, from one school district to the next, as far as the quality of education that someone can get. And if you look at the public schools and some of the better public schools that we have in our region, they tend to be in the more expensive areas of town. So it creates a huge disenfranchisement within several segments of the community because they don't have access to a real quality education in all circumstances. And when people decide where they want to live, when they're looking at real estate decisions, they've got to look at that. So it's a perpetual thing that happens because if I can afford to live in a neighborhood that has a great school system, then I'm going to do that. And as a result, the area that maybe I would have lived in otherwise, had the schools been a touch better, is going to suffer because I'm not there.
That's a great point, because we talk a lot about young people moving into the city of St. Louis. It's a great thing, and I don't know if we've taken a census of whether that is, has risen, but I think anecdotally you see a lot of young people live there. But when these young people start having children and they have to make the decision about education, I do wonder 5-10 years from now, is St. Louis public school going to be an option? Charter schools, private schools, all those types of things.
What are you going to do, Jason? You got a little one on the way. John, you're a city resident too, and you've got a little one now.
I mean, ideally, I
Would
would.
you still be in South City 5-10 years from now?
Well, we have a 30-year mortgage on our house, so I would hope
Fair
so.
enough.
I would hope, I don't know at this point. I would hope we're in a position to send our kid to St. Louis public school. I mean, I went to a public school, albeit a public school in a wealthy area, so it was probably more stable than an urban environment. But I mean, I think when people move into a city, they want to be part of the public school system, and its diversity and challenges as well.
I mean, the issue, my husband and I are young professionals. We live in the city of St. Louis. We want to go to the St. Louis public schools. I have a 3.5-year-old. We're 71 on the wait list for our first school, St. Louis public school. That is ridiculous. So we don't even have true access to the St. Louis public schools as it exists right now. So it is this question of what do we do? And are we going to stay in the city? That would be our preference. But if we are 71 on the wait list, what's the likelihood that my child is going to get into Kennard in August?
It's just a lot
None.
of uncertainty, but
But that's-
a hopeful
That's
uncertainty.
really what's so ironic about all this emphasis on transfers. I mean, it's not that you want to be able to go somewhere else to get a good school. Would be a lot more efficient for everybody to have a good school in the neighborhood. And not only that, the good schools in the neighborhood help make the neighborhood better. So it's the emphasis. People say, well, gee, this law is working fine. Why should we change the law to give people the option to move out of a bad school to go to a good school? Well, the emphasis should be turned on its head. Why don't we make the emphasis on making the bad school the good school, as opposed to giving the children the option to move somewhere else? Obviously, it's not that simple, but if you put the emphasis on where it could be there, that would not only help the education, it would help the communities.
I mean, I don't think there's an easy answer to that. I mean, all I know is this, is that I know that there are other small business owners who keep their businesses in the city, not because it's cheaper, but because we believe in it. Really, it could be cheaper for me to build my business someplace else. And I know I have a small business, people have larger businesses, but they're still small businesses that keep them in the city when they know they could be in Clayton and be cheaper. And so it's because we have the long view. I really don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. Personally, it probably won't change that much. 10 years? Well, maybe we'll actually see some major differences. 20 years, I think we're going to have a great city and system.
So I'm putting you down for help me with the math, Jason. That would be the
2034.
2034
Recap.
Do you want to do 2034 recap or
I can't make that promise.
can you do 2033 review?
If I'm alive, I'll think about it.
Okay, it's one of the two. We'll iron
That's
that out.
cautious optimism right there.
And we have come full circle. On that note, we will call it a
Civic
night.
self-confidence.
Jason, that was great. That was a great way to tie it up. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.